Let's start that over, shall we? Beep. Anyway, okay, so here's a story that I was wanting to do for a long time. It's kind of the story of how I came to have not just this Miata, but the brand new Miata that I've also got. And people sometimes like origin stories, you know, Deadpool and Marvel and all that bullshit. Anyway, listen, so the year was 1999, and Greg was still in college, or did I graduate? No, I just graduated college, and I was in a decent job, and I don't know, I was driving this really boring, I think it was a Saturn. Yeah, it was like a Saturn SL1 or something like that. It was a horrible car. I mean, it was a good car, but it was horrible. It wasn't a Miata. So I bought a 1995 red basic Miata, and I loved it from the day I bought it. I mean, that was the bomb car, man. It was cool, it was little, it was fast. I mean, fast compared to a Saturn SL1 anyway. So I drove that thing as my daily. That was honestly my only car at the time. I can't recommend that a Miata be your daily only car, because certainly it has its limitations. I mean, it just does. There were only a couple of times where I ran into a problem where I needed somebody's help to buy something big or move something large. So anyway, so that's kind of the story. In 1999, I got that car and I drove it, and then somewhere around 2004, 2005 maybe, I started dating a woman with some children, and there were opportunities, there were certain times where I had to take both of them somewhere, and in a very stupid, dangerous, and illegal feat, I would put both of them in this other front seat with the seatbelt, obviously. But goddamn, was that dumb in retrospect. And I would never ever suggest anybody do that. I would certainly never do it again in my life. And I think it was only 2 or 3 times that I had to do this, because it was an absolute necessity. I had to get them somewhere, and I only had this car. So I ended up buying an Acura NSX, an Acura RSX Type S, and it was faster and bigger and could seat 4 people, which was something I needed at the time. And I kept the Miata, and I drove it every once in a while. I drove it when I wanted to, and unfortunately the top started really decaying, and then I had a big hole in the top. I tried to fix it, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing back then. Yeah, because I know so much about what I'm doing now. But anyway, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't do it well. I didn't do it right. And I just lived with the back window kind of being torn out. So I never drove that car when it was rainy. And if you know anything about Central Florida, it's pretty much rainy every day. So that was the situation. It just sort of sat in my garage for the next 4 or 5 years. And I drove it a couple of times a year when the weather was really nice. Then what would happen is I would not drive it for maybe a month or 2 at a time. And of course the battery would die or something. It just wouldn't start very well, because these cars like to be driven. They like to be driven hard, and they don't like to sit in a garage doing nothing. Oh, I also bought a motorcycle at the same time. It wasn't a big motorcycle, it was a smaller motorcycle. And I'm probably showing you pictures of what I had in the past and to help you kind of visualize things. Anyway, so now I had the Acura RSX Type S, the Miata, and a motorcycle, all crammed into a small-ish 2-car garage. And it just wasn't really working out so well. So it got to the point where my 95 was gonna need some work. It needed brakes. It definitely, now I can change my own brake pads so that, whoa, damn it. What the hell? Why didn't you work? That was stupid. What the hell am I doing? Yahoo! Mountain Dew. Okay. I put the car up on Craigslist. Oh, I'm sorry. It needed brakes, although I could do them. I didn't feel like paying for them, and it definitely needed some suspension. I was feeling a lot of like, it was bouncing around a lot. And the valve cover was leaking pretty badly, and this was before I knew how to do that. And I was just, it was leaking some fluids, and that's what Miatas do a lot of times. They leak fluids. So yeah, back to the story. I ended up putting it on Craigslist for like I think it was $2,500, and that hurt me to do that. I mean, it hurt that this car that I loved for so long, now I got to just basically give away for $2,500. And it actually had a pretty good stereo. The install was kind of shit, but whatever. It had some great amps in the back, some great Ampine amps that I put in there. And it also had a JL Stealth Box. Now, JL Stealth Boxes were something that were really popular back in the 90s and early 2000s. And they would make them for Jeeps and for, you know, other kinds of trucks and stuff like that. Really custom installs for bass. And my Miata had one, and it sounded really fucking good, to be honest. To be completely honest, I think it sounded a little bit better than my new Miata does now, and they did a pretty fantastic job with the audio on that. Anyway, long story short, I know I'm boring you, but whatever. I ended up selling it to some guy for $2,200 because he talked me down, because that's what everybody on Craigslist does. So fuck that guy. But you know, he got a fucking steal of a deal with a Miata that just needed a little bit of love and a little bit of attention, a little bit of money to get back to, you know, awesome sauce. So the next day when I looked in my garage and it wasn't there, I was sad. I didn't have my Miata anymore. I didn't have that car to have fun with anymore. The RSX Type S is okay. It was kind of a pig. It wasn't as fast as it should have been. I just certainly didn't drive it nearly as hard as I should have, but maybe that's a good thing because it lasted forever and ever. 193,000 miles by the time I sold it on the original clutch and everything. So I mean, that was a good car. It didn't even really leak at all. It's a fucking Honda. It probably will go for another 100,000 miles. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, every day for about 5 years after that, after I sold that car, I wished I hadn't, because as I got a little more money and I got a little more smart about I could do these things, then I could have fixed that car up. I could have made it awesome. So anyway, I hear in late 2015, I would say middle 2015, I hear that Mazda is going to redesign the Miata again. Now, the 95, of course, was an NA. I didn't care for the NBs because they got rid of the pop-up headlights, and that's about all they did. I mean, the body was a little bit different and it looked funny, but I don't know, I just always loved that NA. And the NC was even worse. I don't know what they did to that thing. They made it into a Barbie dream car, though. I mean, it looked, if the NA looks gay, the NC, oof, that was really bad. Anyway, but the first picture I saw of the ND, I said I had to have that car. I absolutely had to have it. Finally, Mazda created a Miata that's angry looking. It looked beast. It looked sexy. Every angle of it I loved. In late summer, no, it was actually like February of 2015 that I made that decision. And I thought there was a program where you could put money down on a launch edition, and you would get your car in, I think it was late, like you'd get it in July or something like that. Now the only problem with the launch edition is I didn't want the launch edition. I had seen some pictures of the club edition that would come with BBS wheels and better suspension and the Brembo brakes. And I wanted that. I had to have that. So I had to wait. I had a big plan. Sorry if it's really getting loud, but I had a big plan of taking that brand new car that I would get and just driving. I planned to drive 48 states in 48 days. I was just going to go everywhere. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the new car until much later in the year, and there was no way I was going to drive around South Dakota in September or October. It's just I'm a Florida guy. I don't like cold, whatever. Anyway, I finally got my car, and it was amazing. It was incredible. I loved every minute of the 2 hours that I drove it before I crashed it. Yep. I got into an accident the next day. I picked it up on one evening, and I crashed it that next morning because I was taking it out with my drone, and I was going to take some aerial shots of it and just get some, pretty shots of it. Yeah, on the way to a park to take some video of it and some pictures, I crashed it. Now, it wasn't my fault, totally not my fault, and insurance did take care of it. Unfortunately, it took almost 7 weeks. I can't remember if it was 5 weeks or 7 weeks. Anyway, the point is, I bought it, drove it for a day, and then I couldn't drive it for many weeks after that, and that sucked. Somewhere in that time that I was just jonesing so hard to drive that car again, when I finally got it back, I was driving it, and something wasn't right. Something didn't feel right. I couldn't really put my finger on it until one day I was driving at night, and I leaned my head back to kind of look up at the sky, and I couldn't see anything. The ND is just so different from an NA, and it's 25 years of government regulation and safety regulations that make it impossible to make this car anymore. It's just, you can't do it. You have to have rollover protection. You have to have airbags everywhere. You have to have much thicker A-pillars. I like the comforts of the ND. I just don't like the feeling of being in a cocoon. It's not like it's too tight. It's not a small, cramped cockpit. It's good. It's just not this. So anyway, I decided I wanted that feeling again when I had my 95. So I went out on a search to find an NA, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted specifically in an NA. I just know I wanted an NA. And then I started toying with the idea of, well, wait, what if I could get like a 90, one of the first ones ever made, and then I'd have the best of both worlds. I would have the first and I would have the last. Well, I don't know if it's going to be the last, but the most recent. So that's what I did. I was searching for about 2 weeks, and I'm not very patient. So a friend of mine said, hey, I got a buddy at work who's trying to sell his old Miata, and I didn't even get to look at a picture of it before I went with a fistful of money to go and look at it. And when I drove up, I was like, nope, no, 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 no way, no, 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 no. 100 times no, there's no way I'm taking this thing. But to be nice, because the guy was, he was super cool about things, I was looking around it. I popped the hood. I kept saying no in my head because it was a goddamn mess. Not dirty or anything like that. It was just this was not the car I wanted. But the more I looked at it, it had no rust anywhere on it. It had been garage kept pretty much its entire life, and that's true, it was. And then I drove it, and I immediately said abso-fucking-lutely not, because it made a weird rattle. It in the engine bay somewhere. The brakes were non-existent, and the clutch was a little funny to me. I think that's because I was used to driving the ND. And it was 26 years old. I think it was older than the kid that sold it to me. But I bought it because I'm a fucking idiot. That's why I bought it. I ended up paying him $2,600 for it because that's what I felt it was really worth. And he took it. And as I was handing over the money, counting it out, I got that sick, cold feeling you get when you're about to do something stupid. But I did it anyway. I counted out the rest of the money. I signed the title. And now I've got it. And I didn't even know what to do with it because the job looked so big to bring it back to life to something that I wanted and not just had. So it sat in my garage for about 2 weeks while I was doing some ordering. And that's about where the video series picks up. I'm not going to compare and contrast the ND with the NA in this video because that's going to take some time and a lot of pictures that I do not have yet. But that's kind of the story of how I came to own both Miatas at the same time. And I drive both of them often. I also have a 2007, I think, Ford Freestyle. It's kind of like a crossover SUV thing. And I only drive that when I absolutely have no other choice, because I don't like driving it. And that's the story of how I have this car, how I have the 2016, and kind of the story behind the 1995. I hope you liked the video. I hope it answers some questions that none of you ever had. But it is a video that I've wanted to make for some time, and I'm going to try to get this up super fast. So continue. Thanks for everybody to continue watching the restoration series. I hope to be doing a couple more things in the near future, and I'll try to get up some more videos. And that's it. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I'm about to go eat Moe's. It's one of my favorite things to do on a Monday. Catch you later.